And then vanilla in spades on the finish there. Like, it is just thick. It is so soft.
Specifically on a spade?
On the spade, yeah.
You're eating vanilla off the spade.
Yeah, like if you were to grab a shovel.
metallic twang.
Yeah, if you get a shovel and just dig into a pile of...
Dram half full where you get the real tasting notes.
Hey, hello, my friend. Hey guys, I'm Ryan from A Dram Half Full, and today I'm sitting here once again with Josh McMullen from McMullen Distilleries, and we are sitting with an incredible whiskey. This is the Wild
12-year-old Wild Turkey bourbon.
An age statement bourbon.
You don't often get an age statement bourbon, but this is quite cool.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah,
wouldn't you say?
It's pretty wild. So, fun fact before we get into smelling and tasting this whiskey.
Can I smell it while you're
the name
talking anyway?
Wild Turkey.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Not just allegedly. This is what the website says. Wild Turkey. The name came about because you had this bloke who started a distillery. They were making bourbon, and they were taking samples out to get a feel for is this any good to their friends. And one of the times they did that, they were hunting wild turkeys.
There you go.
And so the mates started referring to it as the Wild Turkey bourbon. They were referring to the bourbon that went with them on their wild turkey hunt, and the name stuck.
Man, that's absolutely.
And now
unbelievable.
you've got this like global brand name.
I mean, so I'm just blown away by like the heritage and legacy that goes beyond, like behind such a prolific brand. So, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but the head distiller there, he's been with
Jimmy Russell.
Jimmy Russell. There you go.
So Jimmy was 1950 something,
54, I think.
So this bloke's been distilling.
Wait, 1954? Like that's
71 years.
Yeah.
I mean, presuming he's still working there today, but I think he is.
Wow.
That's if I, for McMullen Distillery, wanted to do 71 years as head distiller, I would be over 100.
That's crazy.
Making whiskey. It's huge.
So
but like for that, so I just want to process that for a second. That continuity and development of a flavour profile for 70 years, you had one head distiller.
One dude.
That's just... And I think you can notice that because the profile of the taste of a wild turkey is very consistent.
Very consistent.
Across the years.
Yeah, completely.
But doesn't that... Because it's 70 years. At some point, he's going to have to stand down. At some point.
Yeah.
Hopefully not for 70 more years. But at some point... I wonder what happens when someone else takes the reins, because 70 years of continuity.
But I feel like
huge.
also, like after such a long period of time in the industry,
you'd have
with this company, you would have a very clear,
down.
You'd have a very clear kind of like breakdown of what it is that wild turkey is, and anybody that's been under your tutelage would have a very clear grasp of what that is.
I think so.
And they should be able to replicate it, right? Like you would assume.
Yeah, it's
back to your story before. Like, what were they? Like, what was the distillery called before they had landed on wild turkey?
I don't know if it had a name.
So
this may have been pre-name, everything.
So just like they were just like doing stuff out.
Here's
of
my
like
bourbon moonshine.
Yeah, it's pretty wild
on a wild turkey trip.
Dude.
Now on the topic of flavour, what this smells like, what this tastes like, what is wild turkey?
Okay, can we also just like pause for a second, because like Josh and myself, we typically lean towards Scotch. We're Scotch drinkers, first and foremost. That doesn't mean that we dislike anything outside of that space. Like,
just where our hearts are called.
That's just where we kind of like land. So, I was looking at my shelf yesterday. I actually don't own a single bourbon or American
which is
malt,
bad.
which I know is bad. One, and which
we are
this
drinking.
one.
But look, wild turkey products. So I've got a close friend who's actually involved with McMullen. Loves wild turkey. The rare breed. There's a cask name. It's they've got a cask strength release. They do. There's a wild turkey revival. The wild turkey. They got a whole bunch of different products. But I remember sitting down with him one day, and he was kind of interested in whiskey, kind of not. And I was pouring him a dram, and I gave him Wild Turkey 101, which was a bourbon that I owned at the time. Classic. And I said, just have this one. And he loved it. And so he started buying, he bought Wild Turkey 101, he started buying barrel proof releases. Kentucky Gold was the barrel proof release that I was thinking of.
Right.
Started buying all these different ones, and they do produce a really interesting bourbon.
You know what? Like, I think for me, like, where I, like, What is it about like Scotch that differentiates itself from the bourbon American malt industry or side of the industry? Is that I feel like Scotch has a bit of diversity in its profiles. Like I feel like you've got each region, each distillery, each, you know, kind of like mash bill has its own sort of nuance and, you know, its own individual take on the recipe. Whereas for me, and this is coming from inexperience. I haven't had enough bourbon. That's what I was going to say. It's ignorance,
because I think if you sat down with some
that.
craft bourbon producers, they would tell you their regions.
So for me though, it's always like cherry, vanilla, oak. You're getting a lot of tannins. You're getting a lot of like a little bit of nail polish. But then you have a Michter's. Yeah, and Michter's is fairly different. Michter's is
and then you have a Noah's Mill, and it's all her. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. Fair.
So we need to expand our bourbon profile for sure.
Again, I preface that knowing my ignorance and admitting my ignorance.
So maybe what we would predominantly try as bourbon is Kentucky bourbon, predominantly. Because the Balcones bourbon I've had from Texas is very different. And I wonder if that's a regional...
Actually, the Balcones that you and I swapped a while back, that was a really good dram. I finished that in about a week. And
it's a lovely dram.
You gave me
I love what Balcones do.
You gave me
But we're talking about Wild Turkey.
Okay, forgive me. So I digress. I go. So firstly...
What I'm hearing is we need to do a bourbon episode.
I think you're probably right. So can you just tell me a little bit more about what we're drinking today? So like what is this expression? Like what kind of cask are we looking at? Like just fill me in. Well, so this is 12-year-old. That's all I know.
The question, what kind of cask are we looking at? It's a bourbon. So it's a virgin oak cask.
Fair.
Which is an easy one to answer. 101 proof. So the proof, you just divide it in half basically. So it's 50.5% ABV.
Yep.
The proof had a, what did I say? 50.5?
You might have.
Yeah.
Correcting for no reason.
Proof has a whole thing about like to proof that it was a high enough alcohol strength, you would mix the alcohol with gunpowder, light it, and if it ignited, that was proof. And so 101 proof.
Wow. Okay, there you go.
This is 50.5%. It'll be straight into a virgin oak cask. Jimmy and Eddie Russell produced it, which is who we were just talking about.
Yep.
Not a ton of other information on here, but this is interesting in that it's a 12-year-old bourbon. So typically, well, I'm not super educated in the space, but it's not frequent that you would see a bourbon with an age statement.
Right.
That's not because bourbon makers are being sneaky and trying to get it past you. America, similar to Australia, is a hotter climate, so it's harder to age a whiskey for a long period of time because the warm climate means that the barrel adds tons of flavour really quickly, and sometimes you can overdo it, kind of like if you oversteep a tea bag and your tea turns tanniny and dark.
And so that's a kind of like not disgusting, but overly bitter, very like astringent.
So it's hard to stretch it out. And the other thing that you get with a longer aging period in a hotter climate is over time you get evaporation, and so the volume in your barrel goes down, so it's hard to make it make sense.
So the Angels are taking their share.
But this is a 12-year-old bourbon, which is really exciting.
So it's a good age statement, and we're obviously all bourbon barrels. So straight off the bat, like the nose
Virgin oak barrels.
The nose is absolutely incredible. Like I'm getting really rich wood notes. Again, a lot of vanillas, but
I get a lot of herbs.
Are you getting some herbs in there?
Herbs, yeah.
Well, I was going to say, so the wood that I'm getting, to try and give it a point of nuance from just woodiness or tannins, I'm feeling like there's a bit of red gum coming through on the nose.
Oh, there is that Australian hot day in the school playground.
The tambar sort of thing, yeah.
I get, in Wild Turkey commonly, I get chocolate, a little bit of a chocolate note, but predominantly I get this cherry whiz fizz note. Whiz fizz is like it really like fills your nose with this like
kind of like lively, sherbety sort of thing.
Really exciting nose, and that sherbety kind of cherry note. I really get cherry.
The cherry, yeah. Like the cherry is really prominent and you super red.
You get chocolate, but you get chocolate in the way if you got a really lovely piece of wood and you warmed up the wood and you smell that, you can get some nutty, chocolatey notes off it sometimes.
I'll add to all of this conversation by saying I'm also getting like this kind of like fresh wood varnish. I'm getting this kind of like it's not too far down the nail polish sort of like direction of like.
Not at all.
It's kind of like fresh coated stain. I love it. It's really, really cool.
Should we taste it?
Yeah, let's go. Thank you.
Very soft on the introduction, but wow, it shoots up in the middle.
Bro, soft on the introduction. That is a powerhouse straight off the bat.
That varnishy nail strippery note comes through, not in a bad way, but it's very like
prominent at the beginning there.
Full on, and it you don't invite it into your house and it like gently puts its shoes down. It like swings the door open and breaks the mirror.
Can I build off that? So you're right. First greeting is this kind of like very strong, it's almost chemically, but not necessarily in a bad way. It's like, it's that kind of like woody mixed with some kind of like, you know, like coating thing, whatever you want to call that at the beginning. But then there's this like beautiful, like fresh red apple fruit orchard note.
Oh, great note.
Yeah, cherry is still there.
There's a bitterness to that apple though. It's like,
it is a bit, like almost
it's like
waxy.
You've had a bit of apple, but with like 15 layers of apple skin. You know where you get the bitterness of an apple skin?
Yeah, totally. And then vanilla in spades on the finish there. Like it is just thick. It is so soft.
Specifically on a spade?
On the spade, yeah.
You're eating vanilla off the spade.
Yeah, like if you were to grab a shovel.
metallic twang.
Yeah, if you get a shovel and just dig into a pile of...
Dram half full where you get the real tasting notes. But isn't it...
It's kind of wild. Like I'm actually like kind of, as a Scotch drinker, blown away by how much flavor you can fit into a bourbon like this.
And we've had today, leading up to this, 5 different malted. So barley, malt doesn't technically mean barley, but it basically means barley. We've had 5 different barley-based whiskies.
Yep.
Now moving across to the corn, you really don't get that nutty, grainy backdrop. You get this dusty, wheaty, sweet kind of note, which you often get from wheat and rye, and they do a very high rye mash bill.
So this is a high rye mash bill.
High rye mash bill, but it's bourbon. So 51% of the grains that you use has to be corn.
Yeah, okay.
But I reckon they're using 25-30% rye on top of that, and then some other bits and pieces, maybe some wheat, probably some barley too.
It is interesting because that you mentioned the rye, because I am getting this sort of like slight sultaniness to the palate as well. Is that where the rye's coming from, or it's not even like almost?
I get like a licorice, spices, cardamom.
Yeah, cardamom is probably
kind of
where
vibe.
I'm at. Yeah,
I think that comes from the rye. Yeah,
interesting. Yeah,
but then the pepper comes out from that
oak?
virgin oak too.
Yeah, you're getting a lot of the oak.
There's a lot for us to learn in the bourbon space.
I think so too. Yeah. And it's kind of like a sad point of my own experience. I feel like I've put so much effort into my Scotch exploration, and this is a category that I feel I'm woefully ignorant in, and it's something that I definitely need to improve on.
If you have a bourbon recommendation for us, because this is a space that we need to learn
genuinely,
pop it down below. I mean, Michter's, we're big fans of. Noah's Mill is my favourite.
Well, I was going to say, we tried Noah's Mill at... shameless plug once again to Kavanagh's. Absolutely awesome whiskey bar out in Hillsville, Victoria. Yeah, they got us onto the Noah's Mill, and that is a really bespoke, super unique bourbon, whiskey. Yeah.
And so that's where I think we got to find those craft,
those interesting ones,
niche bourbons. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
But this is lovely. So I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10, how many turkeys would you give this?
Bro. So honestly, like, this is riding up the 8-9 turkeys.
Really?
Yeah, seriously. Like, it's got mouthfeel for days. There's an incredible amount of flavor in there. I feel like I'm trying to find like a devil's advocate. I'm trying to find something that I can kind of critique it on. I feel like maybe there could be a bit of nuance to it. Like, it is, in my mind, a very quintessential bourbon. Maybe if there was something else in there beyond cherry, vanilla, oak, and spice that would give it a bit of a point of difference from the rest of the bourbons that I'm familiar with, that would give it an advantage, like Noah's Mill. But for me, like, I mean, it's got so much flavor, it's got so much depth, a lot of mouthfeel, and it just lasts, which is
it's lovely.
That's what I love in a whiskey, something that you can really sit there and sip on. What about you? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm not near an 8 or 9 or a 10, not because I think it's a bad whiskey, and what I'm grappling with, I suppose, part of me thinks I don't like this stronger chemically note, but then when I think of it as a drier apple skin bitter kind of note, I go, that's actually really nice.
It's cool.
So there's a little bit of figuring it out in my head. I would probably give it, I don't know, I'd give it like a 7 and a bit, 7.2.
7 and a bit.
But I'll preface that by saying one of the restrictions when you're making a bourbon is it has to go into a virgin oak cask. So that's an oak cask that's been created for that whiskey.
It hasn't
put
been
it in there
seasoned
once.
in anything else.
So it's fresh wood.
Fresh wood.
I've had a Wild Turkey, they call it a finished bourbon, that's the technical term for it, but a Wild Turkey that was finished in sherry, Pedro Jimenez casks. And that was closer to Scotch because it had a barrel finish, and I love. That's the Wild Turkey Revival. So
would you
I
say...
would give this around a 7.2, but I think the Wild Turkey spirit and what Wild Turkey can do...
Phenomenal.
And isn't that phenomenal for something that you can get in Dan Murphy's as a mixer, Wild Turkey and Coke? Or that's an entry-level bourbon, but their top-level stuff is phenomenal.
Out of this world.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well...
So if you want an adjacent one, this is the 12-year-old, it's a little bit more expensive, but go down to your local store. Personally, the Wild Turkey 101 is what I would recommend. It's the higher proof Wild Turkey. It's the 50.5% alcohol by volume. So it's got a little bit more oomph to it. It's got a little bit more that you can grapple with. But any Wild Turkey products are really solid. The other option that you could go for is a Buffalo Trace, which is very easily accessible.
Or an Eagle Rare. You know, Eagle Rares are
Eagle Rare's
really
a bit more common.
Good here in Australia, I've heard over in some of the other countries around the world, it's pretty hard to come by.
But those Eagle Rares and those Buffalo Traces lean a little bit more to kind of cinnamon and different spices. If you want something that's just like bold and cherry and intense, and Wild Turkey kind of stands in its own category that way. So
damn straight. Fantastic. Well,
lovely dram.
This has been awesome. So, guys, thank you so much for coming down. May days be as full as your glass, and hopefully we'll see you again here soon. Cheers. Bye. It's good. Dude, it is a good whiskey.
It is.
Yeah.